I'd like to welcome everyone to our Leadership Roundtable discussion. I want to thank you all for joining us this morning. I am so pleased to host this special session with our EPA Region 10 Administrator and some of our Alaskan Tribal RTOC representatives. My name is Winona Wilson. I am the Senior Tribal Policy Advisor for EPA Region 10 and a member of the Colville Confederated Tribes, which is a tribe in Washington State. And I will be serving as your moderator today. I have asked these leaders and representatives to join together here today to discuss some of the environmental priorities of Alaska tribes, challenges and solutions, and to share their unique perspectives. Before we get started, I would like to ask that each participant provide a short introduction, and I think we'll have to mute and unmute as we go along. So I think everyone has already heard from our Regional Administrator, Chris Hladick, but why don't we make sure our other roundtable participants have a chance to introduce themselves. Cassandra, would you like to go ahead and be first in your introduction?
Good morning, Chamai. I'm Cassandra Johnson. I am Gayla Hossett's alternate on RTOC. So when she's not available to meet RTOC meetings, I am there to fill in and have conversations and ask the questions of environmental concerns. I was born and raised in Dillingham, Alaska. I am a member of the Chukchian tribe and also work at BB&A, Bristol Bay Native Association, as an environmental program manager.
Thank you. Gayla, why don't we go to you next?
Thank you, Winona. Gayla Hossett, good morning, everybody, and glad you guys are joining us and hanging in there during this virtual summit. I may have met some of you yesterday during the RTOC luncheon that we had with you. I'm Gayla Hossett. I'm here in Dillingham. I'm the second chief of Chuggan Tribal Council, and I'm also the director of natural resources for Bristol Bay Native Association. And we have meetings, like Cassandra said, and what we went through yesterday, and I'm looking forward to this roundtable. Thank you.
And Chairman Paddock.
Good morning. Thank you, Winona. Thank you, Chris, Gayla, and Cassandra for being on as well. I'm Raymond Paddock. I'm the Environmental Coordinator for the Central Council of Tlingit and Haida in Juneau, Alaska. I'm also the RTOC Region 10 Tribal Chair. It's good to see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I understand we will have the opportunity to take some questions or issues that people want to make sure we cover from the audience. I really want to thank the audience and all of you for participating this morning. So if you have an idea of something you would like our roundtable to discuss, please go ahead and put that in the chat box. So to kick us off, I understand that the RTOC tribal representatives have come with different topics important to their region or perhaps statewide. We are going to go ahead and try to make this as much of a discussion as possible. So as different items are raised, I'm going to ask that all panel members feel free to weigh in with your thoughts. We are hoping for an engaging discussion where varying perspectives are put forward. So I'm going to go ahead and ask our RTOC co-chair, Ray, to go ahead and kick us off with our first topic. And again, we are all roundtable members are encouraged to weigh in with your thoughts. And let's go ahead and get started. Ray.
Thank you, Winona. Yeah, as mentioned before, there's a lot of issues Alaska faces in separate regions. And one that keeps coming to mind, at least on the region of the Southeast, that I keep hearing about and people have concerns of are cruise ships. And we know that a lot of things with cruise ships are changing, from the air, the water distribution, the gray water, a lot of concerns are just basically happening. I wanted to see with you, from what I'm hearing from the tribes and people within the region, Chris, what currently can you say are the changes that's happening to cruise ships right now, and how's that going to look for Alaskans as they come up next summer?
So, Ray, it's good to see you this morning. And I haven't heard of any changes happening with cruise ships because that's mostly the DEC's thing right now. But I will definitely check and see what's happening, if anything at all, because I'm not aware of anything right off the top of my head.
Okay. As things are going on, is the EPA going to be engaged with the state as you know, some of these changes happen? I mean, what will be the EPA's role in that regards?
I am sure that I have folks in water in the NPDES program that look over that, because we know how political this issue is, but that's not the reason that we pay attention to it. I mean, we pay attention to it because it's important to people in Southeast Alaska. But I'll find out and get back to you.
Thank you, Chris.
Were there any other comments from Roundtable members? If not, we can move to a different topic.
I have something, and as we're, as we're in this COVID pandemic and we have all these comment periods that are currently going on throughout EPA, we've always talked about comment periods being too short before, and requesting for extensions on various issues for public comment. I guess as we're going to go forward in this pandemic, and tribes working from home and people not being in the office, and really people, even tribal councils, aren't gathering as a group. We're pretty much just doing teleconferences, not even Zoom calls. But how does it look for EPA moving forward with this pandemic continuing to be upon us in these uncertain times? Are we then going to be having projects being still pushed forward and how do we weigh in on those?
I think you continue to raise your concerns, but we have similar concerns with EPA and some of the things we're responsible for responding to. And so far at headquarters, that many, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a couple of comment periods that were extended, but what we're seeing recently is not extensions of comment periods. And I guess the Department of Environmental Quality wants to see things keep moving forward. By the same token, I realize how hard connectivity can be in rural Alaska, but I don't think they realize that. So I've raised that many times to folks back at headquarters, and will continue to do so. But I think as things come up, I would, continue to request extensions as you see fit, and we'll keep forwarding those back to Washington, D.C.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And, some of that is some of these things we don't really know that are going on either. And it's not just only for Alaska, just across the nation. I know that we're focused here on just, I guess, within just Region 10. It's just concerning with us that industry is still moving forward and these projects are still going on. And we wouldn't be able to participate like we normally would be able to. So I think you hear what I'm saying. It's just, it's a very big concern.
Yeah, I definitely hear you.
Great question, Gayla. Great question.
Hi, Chris. Along those same lines with extensions being moved forward, being pushed forward in the world of Corona and the COVID-19 virus, I was wondering, EPA has been taking a stance on trying to be as flexible as possible dealing with tribes and IGAP grants and other grants like Brownsfields or what have you. How do you see how long that's going to be, voiced to our tribes around Region 10? Because it seems like there's a lot, us in the rural areas are now just getting some cases, big cases and concerns, and the COVID cases are still climbing. So I was wondering how long EPA is going to be flexible with us when dealing with this pandemic.
I think to some extent, your question is how long is the virus going to go on? And I wish I had a crystal ball about that, because I think we're 29 weeks into working from home, and there's a lot of people who are really getting tired of the Zoom calls and tired of the not having that connectivity. So I can tell you from my perspective, we will have flexibility as long as the virus is impacting the tribes. It's not going to be turned off someday. And we're seeing a resurgence of cases as we go into flu season. So I think we're going to all be wearing masks for some time, and we will continue to be flexible. And we haven't just been flexible with tribes, as we've been flexible with states and local governments, and trying to be very cognizant of how this virus impacts different people. I mean, it's amazing to sit in my chair and see the different impacts from Idaho to Oregon, Washington, and of course Alaska, which, as you say, is in many of the rural areas. I've been reading how, they have more cases now up on the North Slope, et cetera, when they seemed like they were able to avoid it. And we've been at this 29 weeks, so some 20, 25 weeks they've been avoiding it. So we're just in interesting times. There is no playbook to work off of for this virus for any of us. And I know you folks are very concerned about elders in the community. And I know firsthand from Dillingham, I believe you got 4 beds out in the hospital. And that was quite a feat to get the commercial fishery to have operated this summer in a way that it did. And I know that for a lot of people, that was a very uncertain, pretty scary time. So I'm happy that the fishery was conducted and people were safe. So I know we're just in crazy times. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. I'm sure our tribes are relieved to hear that EPA will continue to be flexible when dealing with the coronavirus in the future.
Hi, Chris, right here.
Thank you for those questions. Go ahead, Ray.
My apologies, Winona. My apologies. Just in regard to the North Slope, that also just made me think about some of the concerns that we've been hearing from Alaskans around the state, and that is in regards to the opening of ANWR in drilling. Is there any update that you'd be able to give on that right now?
No, I know it's in the process, and I don't know I can't remember if a rod has been issued or not, but it is. I think there's been lawsuits filed by Gwich'in on the various fronts for various reasons. So I don't know if that will slow things down. It might, but I don't have a intimate understanding of exactly what those lawsuits are pertaining to, but I know, I think one of them was the impact to the peoples up there, impact to the caribou herd. There may have been one other one but it's been several entities, I think, have filed lawsuits, and so we'll see what happens with those.
Outside of the entities, have the tribes in the North Slope area been a part of that that effort as well, or what's their? Can you explain some of the stand?
I think it's the Gwich'in who have filed.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Okay, we'll ask the RTOC tribal representatives if there is a new topic they'd like to raise.
Winona, really quick. Yeah, I was just going to say that we had one of our other RTOC representatives join us on the call, and we're happy to have her. Patricia Salmon, if you're there, can you introduce yourself, and if there's any questions you have for Chris, concerns regarding environmental impacts throughout the state of Alaska, this is the platform to bring it up. Patricia? Oh, you're still on mute.
Sorry. I'm Patricia Salmon from Chalkesick, Alaska. I'm 150 miles northeast of Fairbanks, up and over towards the border. I think one of the concerns I do have is the Arctic refuge and the impact it has, to our tribes. And I think that's what, when I logged in, is what you guys were talking about. I do know some tribes from, the Gwich'in Nation had filed lawsuits and stuff like that on that issue. But one of the things I was going to talk with, I don't know that RTOC is involved with, is the porcupine and caribou herd management. But I'd like some details, what EPA is doing, how far into the issues, they are, what kind of protection they're providing. I think I'd like a little bit of update on that. Thank you.
Good morning. We don't have a direct work. We're not doing any work with on the porcupine herd. We did give our comments on the EIS, which I believe we were not sure we were a cooperating agency or not, but our comments were quite extensive, and I believe one of the issues we brought up was the impacts to wildlife, but that would be up to Fish and Wildlife to dig into deeper at this point. And I know that our commenting period, I believe, excuse me, is over at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia, for joining us. We haven't met yet. I'm Wenona. It's so nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here to join our roundtable discussion. Please jump in with any thoughts as we proceed. I do want to let the roundtable know. Thank you. I do want to let all of the roundtable participants know that we have received some questions from our audience. We have some questions about the proposed Pebble Mine project. And again, we will be dedicating a full hour to that topic beginning at 10:15, and we have special guests that will be joining us for that. So we will hold our discussions about Pebble until we reach that time in the agenda. Another question that's come in is, with climate change rapidly increasing, why doesn't the EPA take a stronger stance on oil development and drilling? So if we would like to go ahead and talk about changing climates, what work is occurring to address changing climate, and also the topic of oil development and drilling. We can go ahead and open that up for all members to discuss. Because the question was mostly directed at EPA, I will ask our regional administrator to start with his comments first. Thank you.
Sure, and I participated in the ECOS meeting yesterday, which is all the environmental leaders of states working together to do a conference. And one of the breakout meetings was about alternative energy and the work that's going in to develop a carbonless economy within the next 30 years. And basically, as you transition away from, the practices that we have today, it can't be a light switch that one day we're just going to stop with oil, but we have to continue on alternative energy. We have to find better battery technology. I think people are even beginning to talk again about nuclear energy because it's carbonless. And you also have to talk about carbon sequestration as well. So there's a lot of work going on all of these fronts that EPA is participating in. And our Office of Research and Development is definitely engaged in, but it's not like we can just stop doing permits for oil development. We've got to have a transition plan and a pretty solid energy plan in order to carry this out and to make it happen. We'll start that conversation with that.
Hi, Chris.
Thank you,
This is
Chris.
Ray.
I'd like to ask the other roundtable participants if they have some perspectives, comments, work maybe they'd like to mention related to addressing changing climate and oil and gas development.
Hi, this is Ray. So with our, and I know this is kind of out of not the norm to say right now, but with our current administration not necessarily supporting the, my apologies if I say this wrong, the support of climate change work, I know that there are still projects that, the EPA has allowed to continue, and we're calling it in a sense like tribal resiliency and things of that nature. What support or work is the EPA giving to tribes or organizations around Region 10, if you will, on climate change projects, if you can list that out, just to kind of give an idea where EPA is giving that support out at.
Ray, as you know, through the GAP funding, there's a lot of climate change activities that are going on the tribal level. I've continued to use that term whenever I talk back in headquarters from a direct experience with Alaska. Things are changing, and of course I worked on Arctic policy issues as well for some 15 years. I was on the Northern Waters Task Force, the Arctic Policy Commission, and as well involved with the working group of the Arctic Council. So I've continued to use the term, and I haven't gotten a lot of resistance to that back in headquarters. But I know that seems to be a touchy subject with everybody. When this administration first took over, people were wondering if they should use the term in their IGAP grant proposals, etc. So there's no doubt in my mind that the climate is changing, And, every day EPA works to improve air quality. We work to improve water quality. I think we're doing our best given the funding that we have to address the issues. Is it enough? No. Is there a lot more that we can do? There definitely is a lot more. And as time goes by, we'll see where Congress puts the funding and whether it's a reflection of where they want to go, because they are the funders. We get so much money to spread around, and of course it's never enough. And the IGAP funds are not enough. I totally get that as well. So.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Yeah, go ahead, Winona. My apologies. I was just thanking Chris on that response.
Oh, no, that's good, Ray. Remember, we want engaging discussion, so it's good that we're all talking. I do want to give an opportunity to the other roundtable members if they'd like to talk about this overall topic of changing climate and also resource extraction or oil and gas development.
I do. I just want to, remind everybody the importance of protecting the earth and protecting Mother Earth and our land, our water, and our air. That's what we're here for, environmental protection and making sure that our environment is protected. We live in an industry-driven world, right? One of the things, I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch some of the film festivals that we had yesterday. Those of you who are on this panel right now, I know the participants have had a chance, and those will be uploaded on the RTOC website as well. But contaminants are now being found in the plants, in the roots of the plants, and we're eating byproducts of industrial revolution. And we need to be really careful about the contaminants that are going into the air and coming down onto our food, and really remembering that if we don't take care of the land and the water and the air, that we're just going to be harming ourselves. And I just want to remind everybody about that, of the importance. And it just seems like we have all of these issues that are coming upon us, and the climate is changing, and we have all of these major issues going on in the world. But I do have something here. I do have a crystal ball, actually. And, with this crystal ball, I did get this because so many people refer to having a crystal ball, that if we could see the future. The future is if we don't protect our earth and we don't protect our land and our water and our air, we're going to be harming ourselves, humanity, animals, life. So these concerns and these issues that we bring up as Indigenous people throughout the Alaska, throughout the nation, and throughout the world, we are the scientists, we are the traditional knowledge bearers that have been passed on to us. And same with you guys on the phone who are not Indigenous inhabitants. You were once Indigenous before, and we need to go back to how things were done before. So I just wanted to bring that up, is that, we just need to be careful and protect the earth. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kayla.
If I could borrow your crystal ball sometime, I'd really appreciate it. Some of the things that are emerging are like PFOS and PFOA, the AFFF, the stuff that's been used to put out aircraft fires, and you find it in everything from that to now we're spending a lot of time on plastics in the ocean, microplastics, nanoplastics. I was lucky enough to be at the Vancouver Aquarium in British Columbia must have been in November of last year, and they're working with a consortium of people around the world on nanoplastics, and they find it under the ice in the Arctic. You find it everywhere, and it's coming from fibers on our clothes. And so the good news is there's a lot of textile companies that are working to figure this out and to, curb the nano and the microplastics from going into the ocean. But EPA is also working with the plastic manufacturers on plastics that go in the ocean. And I think there's 6 Asian countries where the majority of this stuff comes from, and they don't have proper landfills, et cetera. And of course, a lot of those bottles are more than likely manufactured in the United States, or some of them are anyway. They're not all. But it's a huge concern, and we're definitely working hard to try to figure out how to work with those Asian communities on how to set up, landfills, et cetera. And I was supposed to go over to the Southeast Asia to talk to folks about that, but then COVID hit. So a lot of those kind of things have been put on hold for now. But we're continuing to have discussions with the plastics manufacturers and challenging them to come up with biodegradable plastics, which I heard of the other day, the possibility of kelp being used to make biodegradable bottles, et cetera. And it's very important that the water bottles continue to a certain respect, because a lot of third world countries don't have potable water, and that's how they get drinking water. So we can't just one day turn off the plastic bottles for drinking water, unfortunately. As much as I'll do whatever I can to not buy water in a plastic water bottle, but there are third world countries that rely on that. So as with the oil issue, we've got to come up with long range plans to get away from the plastics. And with COVID, I think one of the issues I see coming is when you walk into any grocery store in the United States, everything is in a plastic container, and it's for health reasons, supposedly for health reasons. I'm sure it is. But more and more things in the grocery store and the vegetable aisles are in plastic containers. And when you're in Europe, you go to a local vegetable stand and you buy your vegetables there. But, the expectations of the American consumer are driving this the use of plastic. So we've got to figure out alternatives. And we also have to figure out how to maintain the level of health quality assurance with food handling in this country as well. So these are some big challenges that are out there. And believe me, a lot of people are working on things like that. And so your point is well taken. And
Thank
Okay.
you. I just want to check in with the panel. We are running short of time, and I believe we have another, let's see. Did we have Brian Holter join us? I've just been told Brian has joined.
Yes,
Brian, are you there?
I am.
Well, you're sideways, but it's really good to see you.
Dang it. Let me see if I can fix that.
Brian, we're just wrapping up, but if you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be wonderful. And I actually have a question that perhaps you'd like to answer. So after your introduction, if you would like to talk on the subject of looking forward. And 2020 has been such a rough year for many people. And I would like to just highlight some of the strengths that we have as Native people and as groups of people working together. And if you would like to introduce yourself and comment on that, I think it would be a wonderful way to close our session.
Okay, thank you, Winona. My name is Brian Holter Jr. I live in Hladick, Alaska. I'm currently working for the Craig tribe, and I am the Region 10 RTOC Alaska member seat 1. So it's a pleasure to be able to join you guys, and I wish I could be there more, but we're doing a lot of COVID relief to our tribal membership by giving out food and salmon. So now what was the question? What was your question?
Well, it's time for us to close up our session. So
Okay.
I just wanted to see if you wanted to offer some words as we look toward the future and the fact that 2020 has been a hard year for many folks. And I think it would be good to talk about the strengths we have as we look toward the future.
Winona,
Okay.
this is Randy. I just wanted to allow Brian a few more minutes to speak since he just joined us. We can go 5 minutes over if you can all do that. We'll have the dancers start at 10:05 Alaska.
Well, thank you, Randy and Winona. So I think this is a great step forward with this virtual meeting. You know, it's hard breaking new ground, but being able to address everyone's environmental concerns and hear the administrator, how he's addressing them. Mr. Hladick, I really appreciate that. We need to look to alternative ways of, you know, being able to use plastic bottles, like possibly hemp plastic and things like that, but also being able to continue to tap into all the natural resources in Alaska. I hope that we could look to environmentally friendly ways to protect our natural resources. So working together and continuing to at least do this virtually is a huge step forward. So thank you, everyone, and I appreciate you giving me some time.
Glad you could join, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, for this panel. I wish we had more time, and I know we didn't get to all of the questions in the chat box, so I'll work with Randy Madison to make sure that we're able to respond to the questions we didn't get to. And I just want to thank everyone again and wish you all a good day and the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Winona.
Thank you, Winona, and thank you, Alaska Reps, and a big thank you to Chris for joining us this morning. Chris has a big day with us. He'll be on after the dancers as well. And as they get ready to perform, I'd like to do one little piece of housekeeping, and that is just to remind everybody in the chat, if you could list where you're calling in from and answer the pie-shaped survey. I'm sorry, not the survey, but the pie shape poll questions as well as the survey. That would be great. So we're going to turn it over now to our dance performers.